YouTube, what is up, man? Today we are going to watch this video that caught my eye. It's called Ink Master was canceled because of this episode. I'm not sure of an episode of why it was canceled. I heard it was canceled because of some racist stuff that one of the hosts did and they brought to light from 20 years ago, and I'll get into that later, but let's see what this video has in store for us. Because this was an infamous TV show, man.
Master had a long run of 14 seasons.
14 seasons is crazy.
This show had gathered a massive following and was at the height of its popularity when suddenly everything came to an end. And the reason why will shock you.
I hope it shocks me, man.
It was a show that aimed to help tattoo artists showcase their talents. But soon enough, the show gained a reputation for featuring some of the best artists the industry has ever seen. While it became a staple for most tattoo enthusiasts in America, as well as some parts of the world, it wasn't...
Why? Okay, sorry. I'm not going to pause this video, but why are you doing a lip tattoo on the show? A lip tattoo literally does not showcase any of your work.
In parts of the world, it wasn't for no reason. Millions were drawn in by the impossible situations the artists were put in, which made for some very entertaining TV.
Yeah, entertaining.
It might go without saying, but this show wasn't a piece of cake. Any regular artist would struggle to keep up with the challenges thrown their way. So, only a handful of those who would crawl out of it managed to move up in the competition. Now, tattoos have been around for a very long...
Like I said before, I worked with a couple people that were on the show, and I know a lot of people that have been on the show. And this was near the later seasons. I believe this was in probably like 2017. No. 2019. 2019? Yeah, probably like 2019. One of the guys that I worked for was going to go on the show, but they were going to pay him to be in the top 3, which shows that in the later seasons they already knew who was going to make it to top 3, which is, one, kind of rigging it for the rest of the people. And there was a specific season I remember that you would watch, and you could tell that one guy just outperformed this other guy the whole season. Every single challenge they did, every tattoo, it was just better, but for some reason he got sent home. And then when I heard that, it clicked,
A show like Ink Master, which was dedicated to the medium, took the tattoo world by storm and popularized it. Ink Master was definitely one of those shows that would leave you with lasting memories. From the judges to the drama-filled episodes, this show could be downright addictive at times.
One of you will also be packing your machines today.
I never understood why Dave Navarro was a judge. Like, how's this guy with millions of shitty tattoos gonna judge
Originally,
artists?
the show was broadcasted by Paramount Network, aka Spike, but also managed to get 3 spin-off shows based off of it. Like Ink Master Redemption, which was a second shot for the failed artists, Ink Master Angels, which featured 3 female artists, and Ink Master Grudge Match, which was a spin-off where former contestants would go head-to-head once again and battle it out for the title. But sadly, things came to an abrupt end. All we're left with today are some reruns of the 14 glorious seasons that this show has gifted to us. However, what exactly happened for it to not continue on? The reality show, which premiered on January 17th, 2012, of controversy.
They said I could go home and suck some D's. Ink Master star sued. I would assume that most people in the industry hated this at first, because we all did hate it. Oliver Peck leaves Ink Master after blackface controversy. Okay, that's what I was always led to believe why the show was canceled, is because Oliver Peck, one of the main judges, good traditional artist, he had a big name for himself back in the day. I believed he was featured on Miami Ink back in the early 2000s, but he did a Halloween costume where he painted his face black. In no way is that right whatsoever. But it got brought to light like 20 years later, and that's why I believe the show got canceled. What else do these say? Spike escaped most sexual harassment claims. Oh my god, I hope he gets into these. This guy, Daniel Silva. This guy right here, Daniel Silva. I didn't even know he was on Ink Master, but he was the reason that I was able to tattoo the Nelk Boys. He went to jail, killing that YouTuber, drunk driving. And I DM Jesse from the Nelk Boys, or he used to be in the Nelk Boys, and I said, hey bro, heard your tattoo artist went away. If you guys need tattoos, let me know. And it was Jesse's birthday the day I DM'd him, and I had no idea. And he said, sure, come tomorrow. And that got me in, tattooing them for a few months.
The show's cancellation, it did add flames to the already burning fire. Really, any show on air is under scrutiny by the media and fans, but it takes quite a bit for such a show to get cancelled. So here's a quick little look
Yeah,
at
and this
some
show
of those moments that
specifically
put the
was,
show in some
scrutinized
hot
by
waters.
real tattooers.
Let's first get into a highly debated episode from the second season. I'm referring to the one where a contestant named CJ Jones inked a tattoo that got her eliminated from the show. You must be thinking, what went wrong with it,
That's
right?
embarrassing. I think we've seen this in another episode. That's embarrassing.
Well,
That might have been
CJ made a
staged, 'cause
terrible
that's
mistake,
hard to
and
do.
when I show you this, you're gonna be completely shocked. This should be obvious, but because of the permanence of tattoos, they will stick with you wherever you go. So once they're etched onto your body, it could be life-changing, especially if the design is bad. With that in mind, what CJ did was unacceptable.
Sound it out phonetically.
Corinthians
Oh, yeah.
is misspelled.
Yeah, it happens.
Yep, CJ misspelled
It's not
the
good,
tattoo.
but it's not
And
like
it
that's
wasn't
not
just any
common.
other tattoo, but one that featured the biblical term Corinthians. Speaking on how stress often gets to her head, CJ shared this in an interview.
Got this little dark cloud that follows me around when I've got bad luck and I screw up big.
Well, this wasn't just a major screw-up, it was a stupid mistake that sent her home packing from
It's
the
a good
competition.
tattoo,
However,
nonetheless.
that wasn't the end of it. This sparked a lot of comments questioning the quality of the artists featured on the show. Like, how could someone go so wrong? But this next challenge took things to the next level. And this
I've
time,
seen so much worse than one I meant to be a T or whatever that was. I've seen much worse. We'll get into
wasn't
those
the
one day.
artists nor the canvases
Comment down below if you want to hear the craziest tattoo stories I've had in my 13-year
problem,
career,
but the
because there's some
audiences.
crazy ones.
In the 4th episode of Season 4, the show came up with a rather unusual challenge, the Flash Challenge. As the name goes, the artists had to make a design and tattoo in a flash, but there was a catch.
Let's meet your canvases.
Yep, 14 canvases wearing absolutely nothing walked into the studio, and this left the artists stunned. Honestly, a lot of them messed up their tattoos big time. Like one contestant, Bubba Irwin, who even went to the extent of saying, "My girlfriend is gonna break up with me today." Well, it wasn't just Bubba's girl, but
See,
the audience
guys, I have a great story about that too.
in general wasn't too happy with this idea. Considering how the show was just 4 seasons old at the time, the audience questioned the lack of creativity and the need to resort to extreme measures just for the sake of a little more viewership.
That is
And
pretty
let's
crazy.
not forget that the show had its artists tattoo real-time prison inmates in the 3rd season. This time,
I don't remember
even the artists
that.
were uncomfortable with the idea of going behind bars. But here's what enraged the public the most.
There's no way those are... If those are real prison inmates, one, that's a staged prison. But there's no way, dude. There's no way.
Apparently, Ink Master was anti-feminist. Viewers had to wait till the 8th season for a female to secure the title of Ink Master. Ryan Ashley was lauded for breaking the
Yeah, and she blew up. She blew up. She's a good artist. She's kind of does one thing, flowers and jewels, but she blew up after this.
sequence of males walking away with the trophy, and fans were quick to pitch in with their support. Like, take this viewer right here, who listed out all the reasons why Ryan nailed the show and the men in it. Clearly, this viewer was taking a jab at the 3 main judges of the show, being Dave Navarro, Chris Nunez, and Oliver Peck, who were a constant throughout all the 13 seasons that the show ran. Now, take a look at this fan, who kept it plain and simple, and yet made a powerful statement.
Look at Dave
Now,
Navarro's
take a look at
watch,
this
dude. He's
fan.
got a yellow gold Daytona white face Oyster Flex bracelet. Wow.
Who kept it plain
It's like a
and simple
$50,000
and yet made
watch.
a powerful statement. So, despite the humongous fan following, the show clearly had a lot of haters as well. But that wasn't the reason why the show got cancelled.
Yeah, spit it out,
Somehow,
dude.
down the line, something significant changed, and this flipped things around for the show. September 22nd, 2020 is what sealed the show's fate on television. After 13 successful seasons, the producers finally announced its cancellation, much to the dismay of its fans across the world. The 13th season of Ink Master was called Ink Master Turf War. This time, the contestants were divided into 4 groups that would be led by former contestants. That being Angel Rose, Jimmy Snaz, Jason Elliott, and Frank Reddy. All of them were back on the show to prove their worth and compete with other budding artists. The season premiered on January 7th, 2020, and ended on April 14th of the same year. This was like any other season of the show. However, this particular season had 15 episodes and actually had some of the coolest moments in Ink Master history.
That's pretty cool, painting a helmet.
But nobody expected it to be the last season to ever air. That's only because certain things happened during the season which threw the entire production team out of control. We're now getting closer to finding out why the ever-popular show went downhill. It looks like the number 13 is
The top comment I just read right now says, "I love the fact you can tell this person never watched the show and built the video after a 5-minute search on Google."
extremely unlucky for the Ink Master crew. But for real, let's discuss why. The season started off with 20 contestants, including 4 returning artists who were back in the Ink Master arena. Initially, the contestants were split into 4 teams based on regions, being East, South, Midwest, and West. In each of these regions, one of the 4 returning artists was placed as a mentor or guide for the newbies. In this episode, the contestants were asked to create a tattoo that represented their given state. After a heated competition, it was time for the results. During the judging, one of the contestants did something very drastic. Andrew Hicks actually quit because he felt that the judges were criticizing him way too much.
No,
I
grow
guess
up,
this
dude.
just wasn't his game. Or had the show just been too brutal?
Let him go.
That's tattooing in a whole. Is
This
just
should definitely remind you of the
criticism.
crazy altercation between Kyle Dunbar and Chris Nunez.
That's old though. That's
If not, let me refresh your memory. Although this crazy outburst took place between Kyle and Chris, Oliver Peck had a major role to play in it. And while the whole thing went down, Oliver was somewhere in the back laughing his butt off. One fan even went as far as to call Oliver out on his shrewd behavior, saying that he had stirred the whole thing up and enjoyed the mess from behind. So, does this mean that the judges had a big part to play in the cancellation of the show? To be completely honest, there isn't one particular reason, but a cluster of them that took Ink Master off the charts. Although the fans were quite surprised by the abrupt end of the show, the story was quite different for the crew. They actually saw this coming ever since the show was put on an indefinite hiatus.
tattooers fight. It's any blue collar job. People are gonna fight. You can't cancel a show for that. There's no way that's why it got canceled. And let me say, the artists on the show probably made, or the judges on the show probably made so much money, and it's crazy because they were not like some of the best artists in the world. Like Oliver Peck had a good name, Chris Nunez had a good name, Dave Navarro was in that fucking 90s band, and that's the only reason he's on it. But like Dave Navarro or Oliver Peck and Chris Nunez, they were just kind of, they're good artists, but they're nothing crazy. So it's like they just picked them because they were camera trained. I don't know.
This had caused quite the shock within the fan base, and what was even more abrupt was that the season finale never premiered. Now, let's get to the reason for the show's indefinite hiatus.
Oh my god,
well,
spit it out,
had a
bro.
lot to do with the production than the show itself. The Paramount Network was trying to evolve as a brand and create a whole new identity for themselves. Since the change of Spike TV to Paramount Network in 2018, things were never the same. Initially, Spike focused on bringing its viewers more action-related content like UFC before shifting into the reality TV space. The network switched its focus in the 2010s, with Ink Master joining Spike's ranks in 2012. Following this came the premiere of another spectacular show called Bar Rescue. This was the path that Spike
was a
chose to
huge
go
show
on,
too.
showcasing slightly offbeat reality shows. And that was when the main problem arose. While this lineup definitely suited the kind of vibe that Spike was going for, it wasn't part of Paramount's bigger picture. It didn't exactly fit with the other shows they were planning to air. The new agenda for the Paramount Network was drafted in early 2020. Paramount decided that it was time for Ink Master to say their goodbyes after the success of their new series called Yellowstone. This is also
We just watched that whole video because Yellowstone got popular. That's why Ink Master left, is because Yellowstone got popular. By the way, I
when
just bought
decided
Paramount
that
Plus
they
to
would
watch
become the
Yellowstone,
Paramount
and it's not
Movie
on
Channel.
there. Spent the money on Paramount Plus, and Yellowstone is not on there.
They promised their viewers 52 original movies per year on the network, which marked the end of most of Paramount's shows. During this time, the only shows that managed to save face were Bar Rescue and Lip Sync Battle. Both of these found other homes on separate broadcast networks, while the rest sank like a warship.
My vote to go home is Angel.
You know what? I mean, good
While
for the
this was
people that were
happening
on
the
to get their
production
bag
front,
and get
the show
out.
itself was running into its own issues. The 10th episode of the 13th season, titled Every Artist for Themselves, had to switch from its original format. This was because at that point, most of the contestants were eliminated. This episode was for sure one of the most heated moments on the show since it was a double elimination round. What's even more surprising is that 3 of the returning artists had somehow managed to get themselves onto the chopping block. Once this happened, it was obvious that one of them would be going home, and unluckily, Jason Elliott was the one to be eliminated. However, he was later brought back during the judges' pardon period. This is when Dave Navarro took it upon himself to give Elliott yet another chance in the second elimination challenge. This is when some conflict really began to develop.
This is the most confusing video.
He couldn't work around the pressure of the judges trying to help him when his own style kept calling out to him. Eventually, Elliott had to leave after failing once again. This left the entire South team completely disintegrated. Meanwhile, more artists were competing on another block, and the next one to be eliminated was Raul Ugart. Raul's tattoo hadn't met the mark of the other artists, and this wasn't surprising since he hadn't been performing that
I mean, you do 14 seasons and you're trying to find tattooers that are going to make good drama more than anything. It's definitely going to have some bad tattooers
Frank Reddy
in there.
came in right above Raul, cutting it super close. Obviously, Frank had to leave the stage within the next couple of episodes.
The judges have decided, Frank, you do not have what it takes to be Ink Master.
And this not only left the viewers, but also the contestants debating over the credibility of the show. However, another major contributor for the cancellation of the show was none other than Oliver Peck himself. Oliver
Here it
had
is.
pissed so many people off by wearing a Halloween costume that was extremely offensive.
Look at this. You wouldn't, I mean, when I first saw this, I was like, you'd never be able to tell, but look at that. And I believe he is from Texas. He is old school, so, you know, the racist part might be there. It's crazy. And someone, I don't know, it had to have been like an old tattooer or something that was friends with him back in the day, brought that.
During an interview with USA Today, Peck stated that the producers and I have decided that it's best to part ways.
Of course.
And, well, this was a huge blow for the entire show. Now, Peck had posted something back in the day when MySpace still existed. He stated that the offensive photos of him, which had resurfaced at that point, were from many years ago. Having learned and grown since then, he was a completely different person with apparently better values. But since Paramount was trying to rebrand themselves, they saw this as a threat and decided to kick Peck off the show. However, despite condemning him, Paramount did praise him for his apology. At the time the show was cancelled, Peck had been a judge on the show since its conception in 2012.
It's crazy because Chris and Oliver were nothing
At the time the show was cancelled, Peck had been a judge
more than just pretty good artists that were on a previous tattoo show. So they had camera trained, whatever you want to call it. They were camera trained and they got this crazy deal. And I guarantee you it would make me sick to know how much money
on
they
the
made
show
off
since
this
its
show.
conception in 2012. That's a whopping 8 years working on the same show, which is insane. Anyway, in terms of the resurfaced picture, back in the day, Peck was a bit too careless with the words that he used. And, well, he ended up doing something that no one should ever do. Peck had chosen to become a person of color for his Halloween costume, and the major problem was how he pulled it off. He chose to wear a yellow overall that had a
Oh,
huge
yeah. Yeah, and it's N for, like, Superman, but N.
N on it and had painted himself in black from head to toe. Obviously, the show was criticized as a result of the scandal, but due to the show's popularity, this kind of negative press just got sidelined and it didn't really hinder the show very much. There were several other instances where the show itself had been biased based on skin color. And, well, this was being noted by several people in the industry.
I remember
However,
that.
it wasn't such a big issue since nothing really happened on the show outright.
I don't think, I mean, and this is from my knowledge, I don't think they were being racist towards darker skinned people. I think the complaints were coming from, because I know Instagram pages, like tattoo pages, got in trouble for this, or in trouble, but they weren't posting like black people's tattoos, and darker skinned people were not winning. And that's merely because if you're going to take a graphite pencil and you're going to draw a portrait and you have a white piece of paper and you have a dark brown piece of paper, you don't have as much contrast to draw. You don't have as many tones to work with. Therefore, the white piece of paper will make a more detailed drawing and you can see more details in it, you know? And so when you tattoo darker skin, you can't see a lot of it. Like, I've tattooed people that are so dark, it's hard for me to even see what I'm doing. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. You just can't see it. Like this guy in the picture right here, he's white as hell. So you can see any little color, any little thing on there, you know?
Fans have also pointed out times when a majority of the black artists were demeaned on the show.
See, I didn't know that.
Most of the tattoo artists who received a dark-skinned canvas would whine, saying that their canvases wouldn't work as well as their white counterpart. Anyway,
yeah, but that's just what I explained.
As his first picture started to circulate very quickly around social media, some people came to the conclusion that Peck didn't have any reason to plead ignorance. This was because most people believe that the blackface picture wasn't taken long ago, but quite recently. This sparked yet another controversy amongst the people and Peck, who wasn't in a good position to try and wiggle his way out of it. Later on, Peck did formally appear on Instagram to publicly announce his apology. And well, what he basically said was that what he had done was completely inappropriate, insensitive, and immature behavior. Peck also stated, "I looked at those photos and it's hard for me to believe that I could have been so clueless, insensitive, and dumb." He continued to say, "I hope that I've matured a great deal since then, and I'm deeply sorry for
Hopefully
everyone
he's
that I
sincere about
offended."
it, man.
Since it's pretty unclear when the pictures
I mean,
were
that's
taken,
a
there isn't any
far
solid proof that would
length
get
to
Peck
take a
into
joke of
trouble.
a Halloween
Peck
costume.
also added that he would take full responsibility for the images. While Oliver had to face the heat, the remaining 5 contestants, Bob Jones, Kelly Servitson, Gerald Larkins, Angel Rose,
So
and
this was
Vinny
all
Staz
going on
had
in
to
the
battle
last
it out
season.
amongst each other. Each of the artists were asked to design 5 different tattoos containing the number 13. It was for a 13-hour convention-style elimination after all. Look, I don't usually believe in unlucky numbers and things like that, but this show has got me thinking about it all over again. There's just something about the number 13. After Kelly and Gerald were eliminated, the remaining 3...
We have Friday the 13th in tattoo culture. It's like a holiday where people come and get cheap little
contestants
tattoos.
were asked to battle it out in their own styles. This time, they were given 25 hours to complete it.
Wow.
Now, this was all when the Peck fiasco and rebranding were happening, but there was a bigger reason that came into play: the pandemic. During this time, several other TV shows struggled to keep up their ratings. And sadly, this
You
was
would think
around
the
time
ratings would
finale
blow
was due.
up
The finale
from
was
COVID.
usually a live event, but since the episode couldn't be filmed live, it was replaced by a pre-recorded one. Not long after that, the finale actually aired in 2020. The show had created such a fan base that most of them started to campaign for the show to air once again. And that's exactly what happened. The show, once again, was picked up by the Paramount Group to be aired on its streaming platform, Paramount Plus. After the show's revival, the judges were changed and replaced.
Wow, I did not know they did that. So that's Ami. He worked with Chris Nunez in Miami Ink. I think that's a guy from Ink Master. I'm not sure. That's the girl that blew up from the show, Rihanna, Ashley, whatever. And that's Nico Hurtado. Nico's actually one of the best, if not the best, color artist in the world.
By Joel Madden, the lead vocalist of Good Charlotte, and 3 former contestants, Ryan Ashley, Amy James, and Nico Hurtado. The show ran for 10 episodes after getting a revival on November 2nd, 2022. What's more, it was renewed once again for a 15th season, but there isn't much news for it yet. But who knows, maybe someday Ink Master may return with more challenging artwork and even more controversial episodes.
You know, we always said back in the day that, you know, none of us really wanted to go on Ink Master because it's a joke and they bring bad artists on, but I tell you what, I've been tattooing for 13 years now. If they ask me to come on the show, fucking hell, I will jump on that show. I don't give a shit. I will sell out in a heartbeat. But that's all, guys. I kind of wish I knew that video wasn't complete shit, so... But, yeah, definitely wrong what, you know, Oliver Peck did. But that's tattooers back in the day. Like, this generation also of tattooers is like nerds, art nerds that need a job with art. So it's a lot of sensitive people coming in. Like, I remember when my cousin was 16 and he started getting tattooed, and it got me into wanting to get tattooed and getting tattooed. And it was like, it wasn't about, like, the art behind it. It was more like that rough, tough, you know... It was still like that back then, and that's where Oliver Peck comes from. So, but that's no excuse for what he did. Anyways, guys, catch you on the next one. Please subscribe. Peace.